Okay, I'll do my best.
I want to know, like, when dealing with different people, how can it, like, cancel out your DNA and keep you from your divinity?
Okay, when dealing with different people, well, that keep you from your DNA, keep you to separate you from your divinity, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, when you're dealing with people that deal basically with the grid of memory, associative memory, or just live off firing their neural nets or using their monkey mind through, firing synapse in a pattern, right? It's just like, you have to stop associating with people that only use their physical vision and their visual cortex, to retrieve information from out of the void, because when they get inspiration, for example, or a pure thought from the mind of what we describe as God, they habitually filter it through these associative memories or the neural net, right? So that, what I mean by associative memory is if I say the word red, automatically it comes to your mind apples, fire engines, things that you associate in your memory with the color red. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what associative memory is. So what happens is that when you get inspiration from the mind of God or from the void, that's a pure thought, and then by habit you run it through all these synapses or this associative memory or your neural patterns, and it starts firing, and then you, like if you look at your hand and look at a hand and you say, what is that? And then you associate it with this, that, and the other until you come up with a conclusion.
By drawing on all of your past collective life experiences.
Or what it is that you see from all of the memories that you associate something or object like that with. It's almost like as if I gave you pure water, which was inspiration or pure thought, and you poured it through a dirty dish rag. Are you following what I'm saying? So that by the time it runs through all these associative memories, the pure thought or inspiration is tainted or different or changed. And it's not a pure inspiration anymore, but it's something that you've contrived from your associative memory that you've drawn conclusions that are not pure.
Now you have a distorted interpretation of reality.
Right? So what you have to do is learn how to make that journey within. Right? For example, if I say to everybody collectively, how are you? The response is fine. Pretty good. You follow what I'm saying? That's just a conditioned reflex in the same way that you train dogs, for example, with a bell. You hear me, son? To where that at 12 o'clock sharp every day, you have a woman ring a bell over the intercom, the dog hear it, and that instant, people slide trays of food and water under the gate to the dog. Impeccable time.
Right on cue.
It always, without fail, until eventually, as soon as they hear the bell and you don't slide the food and water instantly, they immediately start to salivate, foam at the mouth, and you follow what I'm saying? Because the synapses, associative memory, they associate the ringing of the bell with eating.
So the sound of the bell invokes a conditioned response.
And so that their neural patterns start firing on synapses that prepare them to eat, and when there's no food there, they still salivate as if it was, right?
Yeah.
Like certain images in a male's mind that are causing erection about women, or certain images about men that cause women to become moist, to have similar body arousal, you see, because of associative memory. So that when you want to try to transform to a supreme being and make that journey within, that's why that they usually went into solitude in the caves and into wilderness to cut themselves off from outside stimulus. But even if you simply close your eyes and start using, instead of your physical vision, start using your mind's eye, or the mind of God, which is in between the firing of the synapse, right? The pure thought is in between, like the ticking between the taco, the resting between the beat, the mind of God, where the inspiration is still pure. If you start using that
unfiltered stream
purely, I'll give you an example. I was walking day before yesterday down the street, taking my daily walk in the bright sunlight, and there was I was about halfway of the block, and there was a stop sign up on the right-hand side. And what I did is I had faith. I closed my physical eyes, and then I envisioned the environment inside my mind with my mind's eye. And I walked by faith, literally. I walked following the trail of the environment that I saw, because I knew that the environment that I thought was outside was just a mental projection of what was really going inside due to associative memory. Are you following me? So I closed my physical eyes and I didn't rely on that, and then I kept walking until I got to the stop sign, and I reached out with my right hand and I touched it. When I opened my eyes, it was on the stop sign that was supposedly out there. Well, when you start conditioning yourself to get away from your associative memory, away from that mental grid, you follow me, by learning how to dream the dream. In other words, practicing. It's not just getting away from people. I mean, that's going to be difficult to do in a society where there's interaction with people for survival. But what the point is when you're alone with yourself, are you really alone with yourself, or are you alone with this superficial person that you've created as a projection from the void? In other words, let me say this. When you have an opinion about people, or when you talk about other people, whether it's positive or if it's negative, in reality what you're doing is talking about yourself. That's your opinion of yourself through associative memory, because they're merely a reflection of you. Are you following me? So what I'm saying is that if you want to break that pattern and start connecting with your greater mind, I would suggest that you repeat as frequently as possible, I am my greater mind. I am my greater mind. Not that I'm becoming my greater mind, or I will be my greater mind, but that I am my greater mind. Because when you say I'm becoming or I want to be, that implies that's a lack, that you don't have it. For example, if you keep visualizing the day that you're going to be rich, you will be a millionaire, you imply lack, and you distance yourself from it. Because if you're going to be, then that means, by definition, you can't be. So you recreate the condition over and over of the proverbial horse that's chasing the apple on the stick that he can see, and he trots after it all day, but he never really gets a chance to bite. Or like that full moon when you were a child, it looked like if you reach out you could almost touch it, but you never could. And that's what all of the things on your wish list become. They become things that you can see, but you never quite get a chance to touch. Are you following me? Now, in order to be able to touch them, you have to be able to master a simple thing that we call concentration or focus. Are you following me, son? Concentration or focus. You take the average person that when I'm teaching the class, they got their mind bouncing off of this and that, and they're thinking about popcorn, going to the bathroom with the person standing next door. Some of them forget to mute the phone, and they're thinking about what they did this morning, they're scratching their knee, and so they're getting bits and pieces of what I'm saying. And then they fill it in the void with associative memory, so that it's like straining the pure water through a dirty dish rag. After the class, they think they know what I taught, but they really don't. They don't have a clue. They're totally confused about the message. Are you following me? Where that we want you to learn how to make your mind single, your eyes single, and have a focus, whether you practice with a candle in the dark or whatever it is that you have to do, that when you visualize yourself, do it with your eyes closed. And if you want to see yourself as an advanced supreme being, or in perfect radiant health, perfect, you have to learn how to dream the dream so vivid that you keep repeating it over and over and over and over and over again.
And it's important that you visualize all of your images in three-dimensional and vivid color, and to try to keep it animated, because it's impossible for three-dimensional reality to duplicate or create a two-dimensional picture that you have inside of your mind. And most people picture things in two dimensions in height and width. And you have to maintain the image vividly for at least 68 seconds.
Until what happens is that you start creating new dendrites or synapses that grow as little spuds inside your brain and create other neural connections, so that your mind starts creating you start building a new reality for yourself. Are you following me? So that by repetition, it'll eventually be true. Like what is it? Who was the girl that kept making the dress over and over again until her aunt finally made her one, and she went to the ball and the thing turned to a pumpkin and all. It was by repetition, over and over and over again until she created. Remember when you were a little child and old people used to say to you, "Boy, you better quit saying that. You're gonna make that come true." You remember that?
Yes, sir.
That's going to happen if you keep saying you're going to bring that. That's going to come out because they knew from associative memory. They associated people repeating things over and over again. You know, they drew a conclusion when it ran through their neural nets of associative memory that when people repeat things habitually over and over again, it has a tendency to create it or manifest or to come true. So that when you want to master what it is you want to create, you have to master concentration and focus and visualization and learn how to be very clear and specific about what it is that you're trying to create and learn how to focus on it. The average person that looks at a movie, for example, or something on a documentary on TV, you know, they're talking to this person and they answer the phone, and then they got a comment to make. Their eyes are darting from left to right. You know, they get up, they want a drink of water, they scratch their foot, and they're doing what they can't do is lock in and focus.
Or concentrate. All matters is concentrated thought. When something is concentrated, it's dense.
Yeah.
They just don't have the power of concentration, just like a little bitty child. You know how little children have a short attention span? Or animals. You see, it's a monkey mind. The mind of God has the power of focus and concentration, and they can bring their mind to one single point. And they can focus on that point with glaring intensity until what happens is, it's similar to that when you were a child and you took a magnifying glass and you went outside on a bright summer day and you would look at leaves and different things and brought it closer and further, and then it would magnify the image. Remember the magnifying glass made it bigger and smaller and different things, right? You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But then you also could do another thing, perform another trick with the magnifying glass. The magnifying glass would also magnify a beam of ray of sunlight, right?
Yeah.
So that if you got it at a precise angle, you know, of focus, at a pinpoint focus, and you held it right there, where the beam was narrow, where your focus wasn't spread in a wide pattern. In other words, the wider the circle on the ground, the cooler the light from the sun. Remember that? Or the less power it had. But when you adjusted the magnifying glass, the distance between the sun and the object to the exact point where the apex or the point of it was very keen, where you funneled it down into a tight spout right there at that point of intense concentration, it became very hot, didn't it?
Yeah.
In other words, when you gathered and funneled the rays of the sun, like your mind is like the sun, think about your thoughts radiating like sun rays, that your thoughts are scattered right now. They're over here and they're over there and they're scattered in their pattern and the way you think. Are you following me? So that you lose your power, your mental power. But through focus and concentration, if you can focus your thoughts on a narrow beam on one thing and hold it on that spot, you can literally burn through stone or create $1 million or a universe. Or are you following me?
Yeah.
But you have to learn how to be very, very decisive about how you direct your thoughts. It's not so much about who you associate with. It's more or less about your association with yourself, with your real self or your greater mind, that either aids or prevents you from having what you describe as DNA explosions. And by that I mean that you probably mean conscious expansion, right? Of becoming in tune with your greater mind, right? Did that help you any?
Yeah, because I know, like, if I ever meet somebody, my greater mind will already let me know, like, this person is not for you, because I can see right through them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that'll let me know, you know, who to deal with and who not to deal with.
And how are they doing that? Through associative memory. Through associative memory, you see? Like old people, you know, your grandmother, she's been around so many years that she's had so many relationships and met so many different people in different situations that she's accumulated so many different memories that when her neurons start to fire, when she sees a person and you know, all those neurons, all those memories start, flash synapses go off, and then it runs through all those memories to draw a conclusion, almost like a computer, you see. And then she comes up with a conclusion, and the conclusion is through experience and associative memory that adds up, that's signaling to her the conclusion that this is a no good person.
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing as a baby, a little infant that has not been conditioned or programmed, that is using the pure mind of God coming straight from the void with inspiration, or what we call Wahy, W-A-H-Y, that sees Aunt Sally come in from church with a Bible, and every time she reaches for the baby, coochie coochie coo. Remember I told you the baby starts screaming and crying with veins in her little head and kicking back with his little feet, trying to get away, just horrified by her. And there's nothing that she can do to calm the child, right? And then embarrassingly she says, real sheepish like, I don't know why that baby don't like me. I don't know what's wrong with that baby. There's something wrong with that baby. Something wrong with that baby. And then drunk Uncle John come in. Drunk Uncle John come in, smelling like a billy goat, 3 days beard growth, smelling like wine with a whiskey bottle hanging out of his pocket. You know, shoes run over, head nappy with lint all in it. And he look at the baby and go boo-boo, and the baby just bust up and get stiff and start reaching for him with the biggest grin, no teeth, just all gums, right? Now what happens is that's not through associative memory, that's through inspiration. Through the pure mind, the baby can see. It hasn't been programmed through associative memory, but it's using the pure, what we call mind of God. And so the water's not being strained through a dirty dish rag, but the child is clearly seeing one is good and one is bad, and it's not associating the outside facade that this woman has of the church attire smelling like desert flower, or the Holy Scripture Bible in her hand. And he's not making the association with the smell of Uncle Willie and his obvious unkempt appearance. Only thing the child can see is the raw essence of the person, whether it's good or negative or positive. Are you following me? So that's why in the Bible, Jesus made statements like you have to become again as little children in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. Are you following me? Or you have to make your eye single again and make your eye whole again. Meaning that you can interpret your environment through your physical senses and expect to evolve or transform into a God, because that is mortal conditioning. You have to remember what I told you all maybe 19 classes ago, is that the common misconception is that you, in trying to transform into a God, are trying to gain superiority and mastership so that you are in control of or can affect advantageously your environment. When in reality, when you reach the level of oneness and reconnect with reality that you are God and that you are all, and there's no spatial proximity or separation between you and the birds or the air in between, then you remember and realize that you not only are you not just a unit in your environment trying to affect it, but you are the environment. And in order to change the environment, you simply have to change your mind. Remember that the things you look at will never change until you change the way that you look at things. Are you following me? So what do people do constantly? Habitually they go out and they go out and they try to figure out ways out there to affect the change in their environment. And they're always frustrated because they never really get a bite of the apple. And time has passed, and they're exerting all this energy, and they're working hard, and they're coming up with this and that and another. But nothing's where they never really, they never touch the moon. Because in essence, what I told you is that as if they're looking at the reflection and they're trying, that's all it is. They don't realize it's coming from the inside out, not the outside in. So they are in effect standing in front of a mirror and they're trying to comb lint out of their hair, but they're not combing their hair, they're combing the mirror. Are you following me? And they're frustrated and saying, when I'm working hard, my elbow is tired, but I can't get this lint to move. And I'm thinking to myself, I know it. You just think you hear me. I'm trying to tell you what's happening, but you're really not ready for it yet. You're not listening to me. You think you're listening, but you can't really hear me, right? Because most of the time I do nothing, and that leads to something. Are you following me?
Yeah, you got to put work for.
Well, okay. What is your, by associative memory, what is your definition of work? To me, the work is the journey within. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that means that if you're a mental master or Ilmutajazadad or the author of the story, it's not about movement. So that a master like Amun-Rayay can sit in one room, on one chair, on one throne, and bring the entire world to him. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
Because where's the world?
Inside?
Inside of him. So what's his need to go outside?
There's no need.
Okay. Make that journey within. I know you hear me, but are you listening?
Yes, sir, I'm listening.
And I know that it's difficult to step out on that when you've been, again, programmed and conditioned completely the reverse of that. Because what do people think? Most of the time, they imagine themselves as physical beings that possess a spirit or a soul or a consciousness. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
When in reality, what you are is a conscious, spiritual, soulful being that may or may not possess a lower form of a body, which is only a fungus that's clinging to the light.
Yes.
Is that making it clear for you?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm saying that to create more questions. Everybody else chime in while your mind is running, because I can feel you all thinking right now. A lot of people are thinking to themselves, brother, I hear you. Now that you put it like that, I love you.
Yeah,
Huh?
so what do you exactly mean by the fungus that clings to the light?
What does it mean by the fungus that clings to the light is that when you come from the void of Kalum or the mental reservoir, and then you direct your thoughts down into a narrow focus that creates a wormhole that we, or stargate that we call point zero, or 0 point as defined by the master, Pamanzu, he calls it point zero. And that what it is that when you take these thoughts and narrow them down, you condense them. They're no longer scattered, but you narrow the focus of them, and then they become condensed or congealed. You know what I mean? So the thought actually gets concentrated. That's why when you think about a thing for a certain length of time with intensity, they call it that you're concentrating on it. Concentration. But when you know when something is concentrated, that means that it's strong, it's thick, it's potent. Are you following me? In other words, if it's concentrated with sugar, it's a lot of sugar in that water. Are you following what I'm saying? So when you narrow your thoughts from out of the void into a concentrated spectrum or point zero, what it does is that it opens up or congeals through that focus into an image and energy, which is just simply congealed thought. And then when you with further focus, slow down the vibration, the congealed thought or energy drops down into what we call coagulated matter, what you call physical matter, solid, actual, and time-bound. And that's no different in stages than thinking about the 7 planes inside of your body. Again, and I have to reflect on the same example, because we know that your thinking through conditioning is through associative memory, is that, you notice I said we, right? And I'll explain that in a minute. Is that when you think about water at room temperature, it's a liquid, but when you slow the vibrations down, it's a solid, it's the ice. When you speed up the vibrations, then it becomes etheric, and there's nothing there, steam, water, or ice. All right? Now, what I meant by that, what was the word I said before I wanted you to remember? I was going to tell you more about it. Who's listening?
We.
Very good. Very good. Okay. You're learning to focus and concentrate. By that, I would like for you all to do a simple exercise. And if you can, when you get a chance, draw a picture of yourself in the physical form. And that would be the bacteria that's clinging to the light. And behind that, draw a silhouette or another image of yourself, a duplicate of yourself, but make it a little larger than the first one. Then a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one, a sixth one, and a seventh one, getting less and less dense, but increasingly large, right? So that would be the 7 shadowy stages of yourself coming down from point 0 and getting narrower and narrower, smaller and smaller, and more concentrated till it's concentrated into a physical form. So that you realize that there are actually 7 bodies of you there. It's much more involved than that, because you have 7 planes, but each plane is divided by 7 to the 7th power, so that you have multiple levels of subplanes in between the planes also as well. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll just deal with 7. And actually, we should be dealing with 12 until these reptilians came here and did some brain alterations and knocked you down to just 7. But the point is that with those 7 aspects of yourself, it depends on which aspect of those 7 planes or chakras that you place your consciousness in as this is me, as to whether you're a supreme being or a mortal. In the same sense, a mother standing in the kitchen, she gets confused about what to cook, and then in her controversy she goes back and forth, the mind to God, and then the physical brain. They have discourse until she's openly audible, and the child in the next room hears her, runs in there and say, in confusion, "Mama, who are you talking to in here?" And when he looks around, there's nobody in the kitchen, she laughs and say, "You caught me, I'm in here talking to myself," right? Both of them being her, but different stages of the same entity. The problem at the root of the difficulty, that's the difficulty at the root of the problem, is far too frequently we identify with the fungus attached to the light or the physical form of the lowest aspect, the lowest and slowest coagulated aspect of a congealed thought as this is me, and the I as some vaporous, mythological aspect of ourself that's not really me. That's why the master teacher emphasizes that we must learn to turn ourselves inside out in our perspective of who and what we are. Are you following what I'm saying? Because as long as you identify with the first 3 seals, or the first 3 planes, starting from the gonads and the man and the uterus and the woman all the way up to the solar plexus seat, when you identify with those first 3 planes, you bind yourself to this physical reality. Solid, actual, and time-bound, person, places, and things. Solids, liquids, and gases. Are you following me, those 3 things? Are you listening to me? Yeah. People, places, and things. Solids, liquids, and gases. Solid, actual, and time-bound. You see those 3 things with those 3 planes there? And then again, you lay heavy like a lizard on the asphalt of life, and you're drawn and compelled down. You're stuck to the earth by gravity, and there's no chance of you walking on the water, Simon Peter, like Yahshua HaMashiach, okay? Are you following me? Because by associative memory, you remember, oh, I can't fly, right? And that in itself, that thought is what binds you. So when you pull yourself up and you're thinking, pull yourself up, come on up here, from the character to the author, and you think about the atom, for example. When you have a focus on the atom, you think of it as a particle. And that thought is what slows it down and coagulates it into an actual particle. But when you raise up in thinking, and you think from a less dense mind, you think of the field of energy of the atom, think of the field of energy of the atom, then it spirals up and becomes less dense, and then your whole body form becomes much more fluid. Are you following me? And then you can affect corrections or changes, and you can change yourself into a boomer, an owl, and fly to Egypt in 3 days, which would make you a physical master. But you wouldn't be a master of masters who has mastery over their mental, that can simply create a shift in focus mentally or consciously and bilocate and be here and then and the Great Pyramid simultaneously in the same instant, without transforming into a bird and flying there. Are you following me? So there are levels to this thing, right? And what they're looking for are these masters of the universe, these supreme beings, or these Elohim, the ones you refer to as God, of the Galactic Confederation, this council of highly sophisticated conscious beings. They're looking for your light. They're looking for the men and women that are bright enough to be able to rise above their mental conditioning to connect with their greater mind and bring that deity aspect of themselves forward and operate out of that principle as a Ilmu-Tajazadat, as a divine incarnated in flesh, so that they will be God walking in the cool of the garden, or a spiritual being that possesses a physical body. Now, more specifically, what I mean by fungus clinging to the light is that when you, as a spiritual entity, make the conscious decision to come to this plane, you choose your parents by their DNA, because you can't be more than you are, rise above your source. And then what you do is that the spark of life, which is energy, or that light, is placed inside the womb of the mother and the gonads of the father. And that's 3 months in preparation before they come together conjugally to have a sexual union physically. And when they come together 3 months later, where the sperm meets the ovum, you've already been present as a conscious being 3 months prior to that. And you're in there as a light being, and then this light shoots up when the man ejaculates the sperm. It doesn't come straight out of the prostrate through the penis into the vaginal. No, it shoots first up the spinal column, up all the way up through the planes, through that serpentine column of the liquid fire, or raising the kundalini all the way up to the 7th chakra. And when it hits the crown molar, it's ignited with that spiritual light in the 7th heaven. And then it shoots back down the spine with that consciousness, and then it goes through the prostrate, seminal vesicles, and into the vaginal, and then, if it's fortunate, out of 777,777,777 sperms, one of them will gain entry into one of those eggs. Right? Now, then as the fetus grows, this is still consciously just a light being, that every time the mother walks up and down the physical plane, carrying this fetus inside of her, that's basically a light being. Because if you took her to the hospital in the first months of pregnancy and they did a sonogram or ultrasound, there would be no visible fetus inside of the womb. There would be nothing, no signs, visible signs of life, right? Are you listening to me?
Yes.
There would be nothing that would show up on the x-ray that they could point to and say, there he is or there she is. But you have to ask yourself, if they can't see it, how does the doctor know that you're pregnant? So there's some indication that the life is there other than what you see. Are you following what I'm saying? And that's this essence that was there 3 months before they came together physically. When the woman is walking up and down the earth plane, she breathes through her nostrils particles that from men and women that previously passed away and were buried, and their body breaks down. As it decays, the cells from their body works up through the soil and into the meticulous of the atmosphere. And when she breathes through her nostrils, women have a special organ in their nasal cavity that is designed specifically to sift out particles by DNA's call, or by nature's call, that the DNA in the child's neural net calls for the creation of the shape and form of this baby. And through our bloodstream, through the umbilicus, it goes to this light, and this light has a magnetic charge that these particles are attracted to, and they cling to it and stick to this light like moths to the flame. These particles are sticking and clinging to this light to form an outside skin, again, kind of like the invisible man putting on clothes so that we can see him. Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that after a while, with the accumulative effect of her eating nutrients and breathing, of course, that's why women have heavy nasal discharge during pregnancy, because everything that she doesn't need comes out in mucus discharge in order to clothe the coarser garb of jalsada or bashara or skin on the baby, right? Now, even after the baby is born and goes term, which the doctors physically call 9-month term, which is actually 12 months again, that's why your birthday is every 12 months and not every 9 months, and nobody's trying to figure out where the extra 3 months come from. Now you know. So that when the baby is actually separated from the mother and the cord is cut, even at that instant, you're still a spiritual entity, a whole light being, because you're dependent for your existence and your preservation on your internal sun only, on the light inside only. Neither are you using your physical form to breathe oxygen to sustain your life. Now, what happens is that your zero reference, point reference, on this side, not point zero, but zero time reference here, starts the instant that the doctor spanks the baby on the bottom, right? And that acute pain causes the baby distress and it cries. And when he or she cries, it automatically inhales oxygen, right, into this body. And this oxygen, remember that one of the qualities, the attributes of oxygen is that it's highly what? It's highly flammable. And this light inside this child is a literal fire. It's a sun. All Anunnakis are stars. So when this oxygen, along with second, is breathed through the nasal cavity, which is the pyra or pyramid, and it goes down and it hits that light in the solar plexus, it automatically flames up or starts a combustion, a spark, and that burning is like a car engine starting or igniting. And what it does is it binds the spirit to the mud or to the physical form or the fungus that's clinging to the light, and they start operating as one unit. Even though we still know that when your mother's in the kitchen, she says, I'm in here talking to myself. Even though myself and I are the same one, you sense that there's inherently a difference between the two, because they can argue or disagree. So obviously it's two different personalities. So it binds the spirit to the mud, and as long as you keep that breathing up, inhaling that oxygen, which is feeding that fire that binds the spirit to the mud, then that tumbling is what we call life. And if you stop that breathing, at the instant you do, the engine cuts off or the tumbling stops, and the light being is free from the fungus. And since it's the light that sustains the fungus or the physical form and not the reverse, in other words, the body can't exist without the spirit. But the question is can the spirit exist without the body? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, a lot louder, son. Yes, that's right. So we know that the spirit can exist without the light. So what happens is that when the cord is cut, like at birth, the umbilical cord is cut, the etheric cord is cut, and the spirit can't re-enter the body, then because of the lack of heat from that sun, the body gets cold, the core temperature drops, they take a temperature, and the doctor says, she's cold now, she's gone. And he uses the words, she's gone. Not that she's dead. It's not over. Over simply means above, son. And she could be above, looking down at everything happening on the operating table. So what happens is that without that life force or that light, that body automatically starts with rigor and it starts to break down, because it's that divine love that in ancient days that we call strong or weak force, gravity or magnetism, that we used to call love, that holds us together. Are you following me? And you've heard people say this frequently before, love will keep us together. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a literal statement. Love does keep you together, but we've misinterpreted over the years the meaning of the word love. Love really describes the strong and weak forces and magnetic and gravitational forces that hold the body proper together in its physical form through concentrated thought. Are you following me? And without that presence of that light being, the body breaks down, and then it's buried, and thus the cycle begins again where the pregnant mother is walking the earth, and when the particles in the upper meticulous atmosphere, she breathes it in through the fundus, and it clings to the light inside, and then there's a reincarnation, the baby's born again, and it gets a second chance. I'm moving ahead and squeezing down from the thimble, but I hope somebody can hear me. Next question. I'm here with you. Are you here with me?
Hello? Okay, good. Okay. Well, check this out. When I ask a lot of Nuwapians, why are you a Nuwapian, they really don't know why.
Uh-huh.
You explain why a lot of Nuwapians still today don't know why they are Nuwapian. But it sounds like religion.
Well, yes. Well, I can explain to you why I know I'm a Nuwapian, right?
Yeah, now, I was going to ask you why are you Nuwapian, but
Okay, the reason I am is because of the definition of Nuwapu, which is it can be determined by several criteria, which is right reasoning, sound right understanding,
sound right reasoning, right understanding, right wisdom.
Right wisdom, right? Okay, now, and through experience as well, right?
Yeah, evidence, experience.
Evidence, experience, and reason, right? That is what Nuwapu is. Yeah, evidence, reason, and experience by definition. And then some of those cannot be used as criteria. You know, for example, you can't be on this side and describe or answer as their life after death if you haven't any memory of it or haven't tasted of it yet. So you could, not through experience, you couldn't use that. But if you through reason, for example, you follow what I'm saying, and these other criteria, then you establish that your belief system is no longer based in faith, but in facts. Are you following what I'm saying?
Right.
So the reason I'm a Nuwapian is that through reasoning, sound right reasoning, right, and using facts and experience, that I'm drawing my conclusions based on facts and not just simply belief.
Okay.
Are you following me?
I was saying,
whereas that in a religious system, what they want you to have basically is blind faith.
That's right. You're right.
Right.
And a lot of Nuwapians today are they're just repeating doctrine and not actually experiencing it for themselves. They can't use Nuwapu in everyday life. All they do is
those are subhumans functioning in an intellectual arena. That's akin to jackasses carrying books. That's the ones that he describes in Egyptian Ma'at as that they never really knew the man. They were the ones that are there on Saturday night, never miss a dance, and they're always dressed up in the garb, except at the ceremonies with the curled up shoes and the big tall hats, but they're empty under the hats. They were not the spiritual aspirants or the adepts that were there because they never heard the real message. Are you following me?
Wow.
In other words, he came giving them what they wanted, and hope of them learning to want what it is he truly came to give. But most people through conditioning have a mass market mentality so that they're conditioned to follow Reverend Rev Deacon Pork Chop and Pastor Fried Chicken because he or she is telling them what they want to hear. And what they want to hear is anything that confirms their already preconceived beliefs. Are you following me?
Right. Oh, man. I follow you.
You follow me? So that when somebody comes to them and tells them the actual truth, like the baby that sees Aunt Sally and Uncle Willie for what they are, not through associative memory, when somebody comes to them and tells them what's really there, and it's different from what their beliefs are, they want to tear that person's head off, or crucify him, or stone him. Are you following me?
Oh, I do.
And I'm talking about they get hot as fish grease.
You were saying about the about the Pastor. You were talking about the Pastor.
Yeah, right. So what it is that he came giving people what they wanted in order for them to learn what it is he truly came to give. Because if he would have came in 1970, when everybody was in a middle mindset, talking about he was the man from planet Risk, and he was Yanu, and that spiritual master spoke through him, and that we were all gods, he would have been talking on the microphone, there wouldn't have been nobody in the room.
That's right.
Are you following me? And what's my proof of that? If you think about the size of this class, we might have 40 people in this class here. But if you go on TV and you look at Billy Graham, the Ram on TV, you're going to see him filling up football stadiums full of people. And that's just a trickle, because he's got millions and millions of people, 1 billion people listening to him on the radio and on the television outside of the stadium, right? And what is he teaching? Nothing. He's not teaching. He's preaching to market mass mentality. He's, through conditioned reflex, giving people what they wanted. That's all.
No.
And they're coming to here to get their beliefs reinforced. That's all. He's become a master at checking out the expressions of the crowd, and as long as they seem appeased to happy, he keeps delivering his sermon along those lines. When they found up, he changes direction.
That's what every preacher do, man. That's what a lot of good preachers do.
That's what good preachers are. They make you feel good. Because you see, you leave there feeling good because everything you believed he reinforced, he makes you feel good, not uncomfortable. He don't take you outside the box, make you feel uncomfortable in your skin. He's not telling you what you need to hear, he's telling you what you want to hear.
Want to hear.
Because Malachi said, most of y'all can't handle the truth.
Yep. And that's oh man, you're right.
Yes.
I remember when a brother asked, what is man's purpose? He said man's purpose is to make his way back to the Most High. My question is, who is the Most High? When you say the Most High, was he really saying making your way back to an intergalactical being?
I don't know what he was saying because I can't respond or comment on his experience. But with the Most High, in reality, is out here. You have a life force inside of you. We're talking about divine consciousness, and there is no out there. If you're talking about any kind of a being that wears shoes as the ultimate source, then you're definitely confused, and you're tantamount to a Christian that goes out into a forest, cut down trees and builds a wooden cross, makes a plaster of Paris Jesus, paints it up, and after they make that idol, they erect it, and then when they're through making it with their hands, everybody gets around and bows down to it as if it's their maker, and they know they just made that. That's basically what's happening right there. If it was a man or somebody with shoes on that was the creator, when he created the earth, what was he standing on when he made it, and where did he get the stuff from, and how did he handle the sun?
Wow.
So, when we're talking about the Most High, we're talking about the highest aspect of your being or your consciousness. In other words, everybody here is God, potentially. If you turn yourself inside out and connect with the I, in the I am talking to myself, as opposed to the myself. But again, most people imagine themselves as physical beings that possess a higher consciousness, as opposed to a higher conscious being that possesses a lower aspect as a physical form. So they haven't learned how to turn themselves inside out. So in essence, it's like, again, same example as if I ask you to write a story, right? And you say, okay, I wrote a story, Amun, and it's Tom Sawyer. I have 22
All of the characters are coming from me.
All the characters are you. So if you identify, so that's just 22 different expressions of one mind because they're all really you. But if you identify with the characters, I'm Sally or I'm John, and you put your focus into that physical form as this is me, this particular character, separate from the rest of them, then the problem is that the character has no control over what happens on the next page. you have to turn yourself inside out and reconnect with the source or the creator of the characters, because it's the author that has the pen in his or her hand that has control of what happens on the next page or the next day. All right, I see a lot of you all got my email, my mass email, and either Shallow or sister that was incarcerated has been bailed out, okay?
Great.
Very good. So we came together as a unit and as a collective, and we accomplished some good there again.
Peace, Brother Amun.
I had a question, Brother Amun.
I'll do my best.
I just wanted to know what the benefit of knowing that we are all the source, we are all the one, or coming from oneness. What is the benefit of that compared to what we already know as of right now based on our beliefs?
Okay, as opposed to what we know right now in our belief system, well, the difference is identifying with yourself as the creator, as opposed to the creation, as the maker, as opposed to the made, as the author, as opposed to the character in the story. Again, the character has no control over what happens on the next page because he's not the writer. He's not creating the storyline. Only the author is. So if you identify with the oneness, or I am the source, then you become the creator again. And from that vantage point, from that most high vantage point, you're the one that's creating the story. And how do you do that? From out of the void. In the same way that if I ask you to go into a dark room that's triple dark and you put a blindfold on, and in triple darkness I ask you to imagine the brightest sunny day that you ever saw and your recorded experience on Earth, and the sun is so bright you got to put your hand over your forehead to keep the glare from hurting your eyes. You can see that sun in your mind, can't you?
Yeah.
That's what we call Fiat Lux in Latin, let there be light, or Anor, the light, let there be light. Say to a thing, be and it is. That's God creating something from nothing. Because where's the light coming from? That's God creating. So that when you get ready, as working as the creator, when you bring something from point zero, it starts to solidify, coagulate from just like a craft that you see coming, an interdimensional craft that'll come, and the first sign or aberration of it would be like a cloud or a mist or a fog, like a ghost or something. So that when you start thinking something up as the creator from the void, it comes and it may appear as a thought that's, you might say, somebody asks you to remember something, to think something up that you never saw, and you say, don't rush me, my mind is still kind of foggy, it's kind of cloudy, it's not clear yet. Are you following me? Because it's coming from that stage of pure void into this physical plane, and that threshold, whether it breaches, where it comes to the interim place where daylight turns to dawn or evening into night, that threshold right there, or horizon right there, is what we call 0 point. Where the first incarnation that you see on the physical plane after the visible light spectrum would be a sort of a mist or a cloudy thought that would then start to coagulate or congeal more and form a physical object that you could identify with your physical senses as a sham or a physical craft. Are you following me? And your thoughts to creation are coming down from the plane, from the void in the same way. Now, a person that's trapped inside of person, places, and things and only using their associative memory and their neuron circuitry or synapses that keep firing through repetition and programming, what they do is they keep recreating the same realities every day based on previous experience or memory and nothing outside of it. So the evidence of that is you got 50 people standing outside, and there's an interdimensional craft right there in broad daylight, and 7 of the men and women see the craft standing right there, a big silver disc in the bright sunlight against the blue sky, plain as day. And the other 43 people say these people are crazy, there's nothing there at all. It's because, like the silent whistle that the dog, the hunter, blows, and he can't hear it, or the man next to him, but the dog 50 yards away, his ears straight up, shoots straight up because he's tuned into a higher frequency. These people that have their physical eyes open and are using their third eye or mind's eye to see the craft with while their physical eye is open, labor under the misconception that they're seeing the craft physically because their eyes are open physically, and that they conclude that the 43 people must be blind. But their eyes are open, but their third eye is closed, or their mind's eye is closed, and so they can't accept or they can't see what's not part of their experience or something outside of the box. Are you following what I'm saying?
But could what's outside the box interfere with them, being that they can't see it, or only the people that can see it can only interfere with it?
It can only interfere with the people that can see it, because of the people that don't see it, it's a non-entity. It doesn't exist. It's not part of their reality. So they couldn't have any emotion about it, right? So the people that can see it, they might get emotional about it. You know, they might get fearful about it, or they might get excited and happy about it. You know, if you see a spaceship right now in plain bright daylight, won't you be affected by that?
Repeat that one more time.
If you see a spaceship right now, if you go outside on your front porch and there's a spaceship on your lawn in plain view and you see it, would you get emotional? Would you get excited about that?
I mean, I don't know, because I've never really seen a spaceship, but I know it definitely has an emotional reaction.
That was the real you. That wasn't a conditioned response. The second answer was the truth right there. Yes, of course, you would be emotional about it. But if you went out on your front porch and looked on your lawn and saw nothing but the grass, then what would be your response?
Right, it would just be a normal response.
So the one asking the question knows better than the one being asked, right?
Right.
Right. If they can't see it, then they won't be affected by it, right?
So if I open up, say, the third eye where I can't see, is it possible that I can turn it off or close it to not see it?
Yes, yes, you do it all the time. All it is a mental shift in consciousness or a shift in focus. Are you following me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and also...
Because you know what you've done? You know what you've done? A lot of times you weren't in an alpha state and what you call a transcendental dream situation or out-of-body experience, and you were interacting with something that was chasing you, and by the way, your mind was moving at light speed, so you couldn't catch up with it. That's why you had this feeling that no matter how hard you tried to run, how fast, you always felt like you were stuck in mud because you can't outrun the speed of light, right? So what happened is you got so afraid that what you did is you shifted your focus back to your carnal body, and you woke up in a cold sweat because you couldn't stand the intensity of the experience you had in the astral plane. So you shifted from the inner eye. Remember that when you go to sleep at night, when it's dark and your eyes are closed, you're still seeing things in your dreams that they use your mind's eye, your spiritual eye. So when you got involved in a situation that was uncomfortable, that a lot of times you just woke yourself up and shifted your focus from the third eye back to these two physical eyes, and you sit bolt up in the bed, and you was like, woo, I'm glad that's over, right? Yeah, you can do that.
I hear you. I can do that.
Yeah, you can do that. You're in control of the whole thing. You have to remember you're God, and you're creating your own reality. The thing is that you create a negative reality many times by default because you forget you're the creator of it. So what have men done? They've created God in their image and likeness in order to bless them and a devil to blame it on. God didn't create man in his image and likeness. That's why the Chinese got a Chinese God, the Mexican got a Mexican God, the Hindus got a Hindu God, because man is creating God in his image and likeness. Are you following me? Because he doesn't want to take responsibility for being God, which means he'll never have the ability to respond, okay?
Right. And what is the yayo?
Say it again.
What is yayo? Like, I was watching a video that you sent in the package, and it was saying about yayo, people are yayo.
That was a DVD about an extraterrestrial biological entity called Bashar, speaking about a hybrid group of extraterrestrials that are part human, that are here down on Earth right now from advanced societies that blend in with us in order to raise us up.
Yeah, well, you see what it is that Bashar is an intergalactic being that's like a gray and interdimensional that's actually channeling itself down through a human being called Tao. That's all.
And everything that I'm seeing outside of me is created from inside of me.
Everything, exactly. There is no outside. There is no out there. In other words, when you think about the planets out there, the word planet is actually plan, period, E period, T period, a plan, E-T, a extraterrestrial plan, right? And if you take the word planet and take off the T, what does it spell? Plane.
Take off the E?
Take off the T. Plane. planes, right? So you have 7 planes inside of you, right? And then you have a central sun in your solar plexus. That's why you maintain a constant body temperature of 98.6. Or when you exercise, you burn calories. Or for persons supposedly die, they become cold because the spirit left the body. If you drink alcohol, which is flammable, you feel that burning in your chest when it hits that sun, right? And it gives off light. That's why after you let your eyes adjust, you can make out faint shapes of furniture in a blackout, so you're confident enough to walk without bumping your knees. And the catalyst you need to see is light, and light that heat on a cold day when everything is frozen. You put your hands to your mouth, you blow that heat, that light also not coming from outside but inside you where that internal sun is. And those planets and planes revolve around it in your system because you have a circulatory system. So what you're thinking is out there is actually inside of you. Are you following what I'm saying? Yes. Okay, if you want more evidence that the sun is inside of you, the sun is inside of you, again, remember, reflect back on the demonstration that you just did when you closed your eyes and mimicked being blindfolded in a dark room, and then I asked you to recreate the brightest sun you saw on that summer day when you had to put your hand over your forehead because the glare was so painful. And in the triple darkness in a dark room with your eyes closed, you saw that sun inside your mind, right?
Right.
That's where it's at. When biblically speaking, the Bible says that the kingdom of heaven is where?
Inside you.
Okay. Then if God is in heaven and heaven is inside you, where's God?
Inside you.
All right. So, the master teacher, Pamanzu, taught you a powerful affirmation. And it begins with, I am in the love of all, and all loves in me. I am in all, and all is what?
In me.
If if all is in you, what's outside of you?
Nothing. Nothing, because all is in you.
So that's the answer, okay? Now, to know that, is different than applying that. Are you following what I'm saying? What's the difference in that? The difference would be the same as if you had people that were stirring to consciousness at different levels of consciousness. And there were 50 of us standing on the tarmac
of Hartfield
out at the airport in Atlanta, like I said, and there's a 747 on the runway fully fueled and ready for takeoff. And then it's announced over the intercom that there's a massive earthquake going to strike in 10 minutes and everybody on the ground is going to die. Now, our third eye is open because this is an interdimensional craft, so that 43 of the people can't see the plane, but the 7 of us that have our third eye open, we see it clear as day. So we see it's there, and we can board the plane and get in the cockpit, but why do we die like the other people on the ground that can't see the plane? Because we haven't learned how to fly it. We haven't learned how to operate it yet. So just knowing that is only a step in the right direction. Are you following me?
Right. It's how to utilize it.
Yes, that's that. There you go. That's where I'm at. I'm trying to find people and draw them closer to me that are ready to take that next step into the open void and start learning how to remembering how to apply that, how to be God. Now that they're fully conscious of the fact that they are God. You know what I mean? In other words, believing in God is not simply believing like most religious people do. They think believing in God means to simply believe that he or she exists. Are you listening to me? Everybody knows God exists, but believing in God is deeper than that. Believing in God means believing that when he says to you that ye are gods, that's a fact. Or when he says man will do greater things than I. Or when he says, when you see me, you see the Father.
I'm now making reference to Yahshua, commonly known as Jesus, who is frequently referred to as God in religious circles.
Or when God says the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. Believe that. That's what believing in God is. It's believing in God's words or what God is saying or the communication from God. Not simply believing that he or she exists.
You know how everything, nothing is outside of us, everything is inside of us, right? So, even light that we perceive comes in and we interpret it as pictures, sounds, feelings, whatever. Where's these signals coming from if there's no outside of us? Where's the light of the tree that's in front of me that I'm receiving beside me to translate it and say it's a tree? Where's that information coming from?
Okay, that's coming from the void. That's coming from the void. From out of the where came the light?
Void and darkness.
That's still also.
Wait a minute. Let me. I'm trying to tell you that the mind of God is the void, or from out of the darkness came the light, and you, as the creator, are actually creating that something from nothing. That's what it would be apparently, but in reality, you have to remember that all is all. And by definition, you can't add to it because where would you get it away from? And you can't take it away because where would you put it? So in reality, son, everything that exists always did and always will. And anything that doesn't exist never did and never will because it belongs permanently to the realm of non-existence. Are you following what I'm saying? So that everything already exists, so that you can pull anything from out of the mental void,
mental reservoir,
and bring it through point zero onto this side, because it's already there and always was. So it's not about creating anything, it's about focusing on certain aspects of creation.
However, it is possible to take things that are already created and situate them in a different pattern or rearrange them to form something that appears to be a new creation.
Does that make? I like what you're asking me. Is that clear? If it's not, turn it a different way and I'll try to clarify it.
I mean, like, all right, say you're walking down the street and you walk into the corner store, the store that you're perceiving, even though that store is coming from inside of you because nothing is outside of you, where's that information that's being calculated by you coming from?
It's coming
like,
from...
As you perceive the light of the building, where is that light coming from?
Okay, it's coming from the mental reservoir. The mind of all, or divine consciousness, has everything already there. Because everything is here and now. There is no past, present, or future, so there's nothing coming into being that's coming at you again from your past through your future. It was already there. So if we go back to the beginning, let me try to start like this, and maybe it'll throw some light in blind corners for you. What you are ultimately, son, is your consciousness, your pure consciousness. That's what you are. Your pure consciousness, and I don't mean thought, but the place that thought comes from. And that's beyond your perception right now, at this place in your journey, and mine as well. But I have enough direction to tell you what it is. You're the thought behind the thought. You're not thoughts, you're the place where they come from. That's what you are, is divine consciousness. And you've always been that. So you're neither man or female, yet both and neither. Are you following me? So you knew ultimately before you created anything, or brought anything, or incarnated anything, that you were conceptually the omnipresent, the omnipotent, you were the almighty, you were Al Khaliqu, the creator, you were the Al-Wadu, the all-loving, you knew that you were the maker, Al-Bari, you knew that you were the sublime, you knew all these attributes conceptually, that you had patience, Asaboru, you knew that you were kind, Al-Rauf, you knew all these things about yourself conceptually, but not through experience, because you never incarnated to experience these things, but they were only part of the mental reservoir. In your imagination, the first word in imagination is image. Image. So, what you wanted to do is try to figure out what your ultimate question is the one that you're asking me now. Now you're becoming conscious enough to ask the question that you asked originally, which is who and what am I? Because when you know that you're the almighty or the all-knowing, what did that mean when there was nothing else to compare it to? How did you calibrate that so you still didn't know what you were? Are you following me? Except that you knew that there was nothing but you, and you were the all-knowing, the all-wise, and the almighty. But you had nothing to compare it to. So you contemplated that. How long did you contemplate that? Longer than the age of the universes times the age of the universes. And ultimately you concluded that you would divide certain aspects of your self-consciousness up into 46 trillion created beings that you called men, women, and children, cherubs and reptiles and seraphim, etc. Trees, rocks, and butterflies. And as soon as you created these images or beings in your subconscious mind, right, then you automatically erase the memory from them of who and what they were so that they wouldn't wake up in the castle, so to speak. In other words, knowing that they were God, that would defeat the purpose. Because you wanted to see yourself through somebody else's eyes for another perspective to try to evaluate, like a reflected mirror, to see yourself. You created a mirror, which is people, in order to try to see who and what you are. So inevitably, all these enocytes are forgetful beings, are on the path searching, seeking, and knocking, trying to find out who and what God is. And we have enough mental power, like birds find south without map, to find our way back to the source without ever seeing him. Those of us that are really on this path and striving to do so. So what you've done is, when you created that, you dismembered yourself into, like, putting a leg here, mentally an arm here, an ear here, and a nose there. So you dismembered yourself. So now you asking this question is your higher consciousness trying to remember, put the body parts together and to the all again, to try to put the puzzle pieces back together to who and what you really are. To try to put it together, you try to put the picture back together, you try to get a clear picture of who you are, because you've been creating different scenarios for your subconscious mind, with these other beings, these created beings that you did inside your imagination, that they had to experience situations where they had to exhibit patience or courage or creative ability. Like I just gave you the example, I had you imagine closing your eyes and in the dark and creating the sun inside your mind. So there was an example of you being Al Calico, the creator. Right? And the all-wise, by having the intellect and the wisdom to be able to do that, right? So what you're doing is you're starting to experience the attributes of God now, or the all, or Faut now. So you're starting to learn who and what you are through experience now. So that now, what you do is that when the mother is asked by the child, who are you talking to? And as you say, you caught me, I'm in here talking to myself. You're realizing that the myself is the one of the 46 trillion created beings in the storyline, one of the characters, and the eye of the all-seeing at the top of the pyramid, which is the nasal cavity, the eye of Ra that's watching you, is the one that set the storyline into motion as a creator, and he or she never sleeps, but is always watching, right? Or when you face the mirror, and I say, son, who is that? You say, that's me, Amun. I know that's me. I see my nose, my eyes, my ears, my face. That's me in the mirror. I say, okay, I see that, you see that. Now, if you want to, if you close your physical eyes, can you still see your face and nose and eyes and all that? If you want to with your eyes closed, can you still see the same thing, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, who is that looking at you when both your physical eyes are closed?
Me.
That's the real you.
I know.
That is the I, not the myself. That is the one. Now, the real you is actually behind that, the thought behind the thought. And that's the one that created the story, or the consciousness, or the higher self that created these other images inside of the mind. How do we know that it's just a mental thoughts that created inside the mind? Because if you open your eyes, you can see yourself in the mirror, but if you close your eyes, you can still see yourself. So in reality, where are you at? Out there or in there?
Both.
Well, out there is in there, because when you look at a picture on the wall, you most of the time think that that's that when you see it in your mind, the mental impression is a reflection of what you see out there. But the reality of turning yourself inside out is the realization that when you see a picture on the wall, that the image is actually in your mind, and the reflection is out on the wall, and even the wall is a reflection, including the physical body and the brain that's interpreting the images also inside the mental reservoir. There is no out there. If you're driving down the street in a car looking through your windshield and you see trees and suns and houses and stars and your hand on the steering wheel and you imagine they're out there, right? But you realize on close inspection that if you close your physical eyes, that in reality there's nothing that you can see with your eyes open that you can't see with them closed. Am I right?
That's right.
But there are many, many things that you can see with your eyes closed that you can't see with them opened. Am I still right?
You're right.
So where's the greater reality? So the reality is that when you look up at the night sky, at that blackness, that open void, you imagine yourself as inside, as a tiny unit inside of this vast black universe, correct?
Right.
But the reality of it is when you close your eyes and cut yourself off from the illusion of an out there, and when your eyes are closed, what you see is blackness. Am I right?
Correct.
That blackness and void, son, is the universe. That is the multiverses, which is the canvas upon which you create all of of your creations. Are you following me? Because if you close your eyes and you see that blackness, if you want to, you can see the front of your house from inside in that darkness, or the sun at 12 o'clock at night with your eyes closed in triple darkness, or yourself riding the bike as a little boy without falling around the block for the first time. The pride you felt, you can see that, can't you?
Right. I can see it like I was standing there right now.
Because it's in there, and that little boy is still there. But the point is that he's all of that, the sun and the star, everything is inside your mind. And that blackness that you see in your mind is the void, that is the blackness, that is the universe. And when you and the universe is one thing, but universe is a word that means uno in Spanish, so un in French means one. Versus means against, like Holmes versus Frazier. So universe actually means against oneness. So when you created the illusion of things outside, you created the universe, the outside, what you thought was the outside universe, that was against the oneness. Are you following me?
Right.
Which is you. There is no separation between the thinker and the thought. They're all you. So in essence, it's almost like you were taking a walk through a beautiful sunlit valley one day, and up ahead, it felt so warm and fragrant that you saw between two trees there was a hammock out there, and then you just laid down and put your head on the pillow and started swinging on that beautiful spring day, and you got so comfortable that you fell asleep, son. While you slept, you dreamed that you were in California. You dreamed that you were in Minnesota. You dreamed you were with this woman. You were with this person. You were driving a red car. You dreamed you was running from a monster. You dreamed you were here and there and with this one and that one. You were here and there and now and then. You went to all these places and persons and things while you dreamed. And now that I'm saying certain things to you, trip triggers to make your DNA explode, and the God inside of you starts stirring the consciousness. As you wake up, you realize that your head never left the pillow. You were over here, over there, now and then and everywhere, but it was all happening where? Right here and right now. Are you following me? As the master teacher, Pamanzu Nietzsche for the Amun-Rayay taught us all, you are the center of existence and all things are equal distance from you. You remember him saying that?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're the center of existence, and I'm the center of existence, and he's the center of existence, and you're in Ohio, and I'm in Georgia, and he's in Colorado, that means if he's the axis of the center, there's only one center. So if that's the reality, the illusion must be there, you're there, and I'm here, and he's there. But we're all in the same place. And if all things are equal distance from you, that means that your cell phone, the phone in your hand, and the moon is the same distance. That only way that can be true is if they're in the same place. So everything is not at just the same time here, but it's also now in the same time and the same place. Everything is here and now. In order for you to be the center of existence and all things are equal distance from you. Are you following me? So what it is that the mind is not moving, only your imagination is. Are you following what I'm saying? Your emotions are energy. Your emotions are energy in motion.
Right.
But the real you is the center. You're not moving, but your thoughts are rippling out from the center, just like dropping a pebble in a calm stream. Are you following me? But point zero is the point zero, or 0 point is the point of impact when the rock hits the water. That's when you have an explosive thought or a big bang. Are you following me? That's when you light bless wonder the dawn. That, son, is what we call the great new wonderful. You're here right now. What you are in reality is the experience of Source experiencing itself. And what you are here to do is to realize the unrealized. Are you listening to me?
Yes.
You're here to realize the unrealized. In other words, to make known the unknown. That's why you're asking questions. You want me to throw light in blind corners. I'm a spiritual guide, and I'm here to help you to remember, to put the pieces back together again. You don't ever forget that at some level of your consciousness, son, there's nothing that you don't know, because you are all. But you've forgotten certain things, sight. You went to sleep and placed yourself under the spell, and you squeeze your consciousness down into this narrow vessel that you call a body, like squeezing a genie into a bottle.